This podcast is sponsored by the University of Hertfordshire. The University of Hertfordshire offers comprehensive undergraduate and postgraduate programs in paramedic science, preparing students for a successful career in the field. So their BSc Honours Paramedic Science programme features specialist teaching spaces and indeed advanced simulation facilities for hands-on learning. A dedicated paramedic teaching team comprising experienced professionals bring real-world insights into the classroom and help students gain practical experience. Students gain practical experience through placements in the London Ambulance Service and the East of England Ambulance Service as well. The university is strategically located, offering excellent access to London, the M25 and indeed the M1, enhancing placement opportunities and networking. University also offers the MSc Paramedic Science, so pre-registration course, and this emphasises innovative teaching methods utilising online resources, virtual reality and state-of-the-art simulation kits. So research active teaching staff with a national and international profile provides students with the latest knowledge and practice guidelines. With over 25 years of heritage, the programme has a strong reputation and a successful track record. Graduates enjoy excellent career prospects supported by the university's robust network and industry connections. The University of Hertfordshire's Paramedic Science programme combines theoretical knowledge, practical experience and indeed research opportunities supported by cutting-edge technology and a strong professional network, making them an excellent choice for aspiring paramedics. Please see the show notes for further details.
You're listening to the Pre-Hospital Care podcast on the Medics Academy Network.
Welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, we're going to be speaking about the future of critical care education with Sharon Norman and Adam Greene. So what I wanted to do is really just feature these two distinguished guests who are leaders in the field of critical care. So joining us from Cardiff University is Sharon Norman. She's a course lead for the Masters in Critical Care programme at the Russell Group University. So Sharon is a senior nurse by background and has been instrumental in shaping the curriculum and also ensuring it meets evolving demands within critical care. So also from across the Atlantic, we have Adam Greene with us. Adam is the Director of Critical Care at British Columbia Emergency Health Service in Canada. So Adam brings a wealth of experience and indeed insights from an extensive educational background of critical care spanning over 15 years. So in the episode, what we're going to do is explore the intricacies of a Masters in Critical Care programme. We're also going to discuss the integration of technology and indeed interdisciplinary learning, and also examine the career opportunities that awaits graduates post-qualification. So we're also going to tackle some of the current challenges and indeed future trends in critical care and offer some advice for those considering this demanding, rewarding field. Welcome, Sharon, and indeed Adam, to the podcast.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to see you again.
I wonder if we could just for listeners, initially just get you to both introduce yourselves and indeed your backgrounds. Sharon, if I could just ask you to go first.
Yeah, so I was a critical care nurse in Cardiff. I loved nursing in critical care, and I became the practice educator and a senior staff nurse. And whilst I was there, we explored the opportunity to develop a master's with what was the University of Wales College of Medicine. And I sat on the faculty to put together what we thought the programme should look like. And the next thing you know, I'm applying for a role as a lecturer. And 20 years on, I'm now the director of the MSc in Critical Care here at Cardiff University.
Sharon, that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And Adam, to yourself.
Oh, hi. Yeah. So my name is Adam Greene, and I am a critical care paramedic with the British Columbia Ambulance Service. I have been in the system for nearly 20 years. And then this year, I recently took the interim director of the air ambulance and critical care operations position, where I am attempting to recraft how we're doing business. And it's certainly an interesting role and one that I'm truly enjoying. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you both on. And I guess that segues really nicely into my first question, which I'll pose first to Sharon. And just really, how did you find your way into critical care? And also just in essence, how have you found yourself in a leadership role within that critical care? Was it fundamentally something you intentionally went into, or did you kind of fall into it?
Well, when I was doing my training, I was the first cohort in Wales of the Project 2000 courses. So that's what moved from the old registered nurse to the diploma nursing and has led on obviously to the degree nursing from now. So we were quite a big cohort all looking for jobs at the same time. So I must admit I did a little bit of critical care in my training, but not a lot. And I applied for lots of jobs and literally ran from one interview to the other in Cardiff Royal Infirmary, and was offered the job. Where I worked in Cardiff Royal Infirmary, it was a 5-bedded unit. It was quite small. It was very family-like, and I was definitely nurtured by the people that I worked with to develop the passion that I now have for critical care, the opportunities that came from that, and the learning, and the fact that the patients were so very, very sick, and and left the unit and to survive. I think what encouraged me to continue and thing is the development of critical care itself over the last 30 years. That it's the changes and the learning, and the fact that we're not just looking at the patient that was immediately critically ill coming through the doors. We're now thinking about what happens to them after, and we're looking at outcomes that are measuring not just mortality. So that the fact that it's evolved itself, it has just continued to pull me in and keep me interested.
Listen, that's fantastic. And to you, Adam, you've been you've evolved. Your career has been absolutely fascinating as well, to see the evolution of how you've kind of evolved and now shaped critical care. Could you maybe speak to your journey and indeed the current new role?
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, I fell into paramedicine. This was never a career objective. I actually started in forestry, and then from there within the fire service. And I quickly realized this was not where I wanted to spend my working days. This is not where I saw myself in 4 days, let alone in 30 years. And I quickly transitioned, and just through little exposures to pre-hospital medicine, that piqued my interest. And then from there, it became the opportunity to register and start my entry levels. So from there, I truly fell in love with pre-hospital medicine just through the opportunity to problem solve and the curiosity, and over time just gravitated towards advanced practice and critical care, largely for the challenge, for the complexity, and through the general interest in medicine. And then from there, within this system that, we're part of a massive system, you're just looking for an opportunity to carve a niche and to make this better for those who came after you. And there are so many leadership opportunities, and I can't say one fell in my lap, because you very much have to pursue them, but it felt like the natural evolution to, I've put my time in doing the job, and I still have a passion for it, but now let's start shaping, what am I going to leave for those coming after me, and how do I make this better? And that's really where leadership opportunities took in, and that's arguably how I ended up in a master's program, is this desire to lead, and it was the natural fit. So yeah.
And that's fundamental, actually, Adam. And so we'll dig into that now. And Sharon, I'll just ask you first, because I think an MSc, a Master's in Critical Care, is fundamentally part of the journey, because it really is, as we all know, the keys that open doors to opportunities to leadership and management opportunities down the road, but also from an evidence base, help improve practice. But Sharon, could I get you to speak to the Cardiff course, because of its time, it really was quite novel, having an all online platform, asynchronous platform, where you can work at your own pace and your own cadence. Could I get you to speak to the evolution of the program?
Yeah, like I said, we were clinically looking at where there was a need for a master's in critical care, and there wasn't one, but you also had the consideration of the constraints of releasing your workforce and time and study time and everything. So We started 21 years ago in 2003. That was the first time that the MSc in critical care run. It was at the University of Wales College of Medicine before we merged with Cardiff University in 2004. And it was the first international interprofessional distance learning programme in the world. And in 2010, we decided to take that one step further and go e-learning. So that was really quite innovative in its time, and I think it's only the recent push with the pandemic that others have sort of started to catch up. But again, we're still, this international reach that we have is still very different from other programs. Okay, the key objective of the program is not to teach hands-on skills, but to develop intellectual and academic skills to enable students to challenge their practice, to ensure what they deliver is evidence-based. With the ultimate goal of improving patient safety and patient care. We want to provide a knowledgeable workforce to care for the acute and critically ill patient. We're a 2-year programme, but it runs for just over 2.5 years. The whole programme is online with no face-to-face contact required, so you've got no increased travel or living costs. You're not being away from your friends and family. And what you learnt, I think importantly, remains in the place where you need it, the place where you work. So we're hoping to promote some ethical education and retention to the skills locally. I think one of the key features is that we do hold virtual groups and tutorials for every module, and individual tutorials where they are required. And we really do try to promote the interprofessional aspect of working and learning together.
Nice, and that's fantastic. And Adam, from your perspective, so I managed to pull my dissertation apart and publish it into two parts actually, and get it published, which was for me really useful, just to go through the publishing process. But Adam, from your perspective, for the masters, what did you take away the most from the course?
What did I take away most from the course? Accessibility. I had started university when I was quite young. I was 17, first going to school, no idea what I wanted to do. Very young, immature. So I hadn't even started my working life. And now I'm pursuing into a career. I'm now in my mid-30s going, I want to go back to school. I want to pursue graduate education. And in Canada and in North America, there are a lot of barriers towards people in my situation trying to enter into graduate education, whether it's rigid face-to-face time, whether it's coming into a classroom, whether it's just the structure of traditional graduate education. So then I started looking abroad, and that's largely how I ended up at Cardiff. Is they were one of the first to truly embrace higher education through an e-learning platform, and that made it accessible for somebody like me. So now I can balance the needs of my career and my family while still pursuing my higher education. And the flexibility of an e-learning environment, despite a time zone where I'm 8 hours behind you, I didn't miss a beat. All of the material is presented there for me. It requires discipline because now I'm largely leading this, but it's still structured enough where there are expectations, there are timelines, there's enough to fit in there that I can still, there's this mixture of conventional education versus sort of that new e-learning style. And for a working professional, this was ideal and allowed me to obtain a credential that I largely never would have been able to obtain in North America. So for me, it was revolutionary.
Yeah, so I think to your point, Adam, that I found that as well with this asynchronous kind of platform where because with rotating shifts and the pressure of cyclical shift patterns, which, no week's the same, no day's the same, and no month is the same, that you can actually really fit in modules around your schedule and then meet at a designated time with the mentor. And then I guess my question would be to you, Sharon, was that one of the, I guess, product market fit elements of the course that really sells and also sold the course? It's just that it is so malleable, so flexible around clinicians' schedules.
Yeah, I think one of the important things that we always wanted to do with this masters is it was for real clinicians. So we want you to be, and it's a part-time course. So it's not full-time at the moment, but we feel that how I learned was very well was that you kind of go away, you learn a bit, and then you take it back and you embed that learning, and that kind of helps it to stick as well. So having that flexibility, it really, really does. And people, they learn differently as well. So what works for somebody doesn't work for somebody else. So the 10-week module kind of gives that flexibility within that. Obviously, we have to fit within the time of the academic process, but we try to give all that information up front, so it's there for students right from the start. This is your timeline now over the next 2.5 years, and you can plan your study and your life around that. But we're also aware that things happen that we aren't expecting. And so, we have flexibility that we can work with you as your module leads or your personal tutors to allow things to have a bit of flexibility where it is needed. One of the things that, to pick up from what Adam was saying, is that we are in this, we're really keen that it isn't just a tick box exercise to get a badge, and that it's clinically relevant. And our assessment strategy is developed to consider other outcomes, such as the publishing that Adam has mentioned. We want to develop students as a whole and arm them with skills that are valuable in their professional lives. IT skills now, as more and more is needed. Communication, presentation, team working, and leadership. And I think skills is really important going forward. We need leaders in critical care. And that doesn't mean just the managers at the top. We need people to lead from the shop floor, from ensuring quality to the patients being delivered.
No, indeed. And actually, to that point around quality on the shop floor, and like you said, based on evidence-based medicine, evidence-based practice, and the hierarchy of research, it's, for me, it was absolutely foundational for actually understanding that not all truths are the same. There's meta truths, and there's deep truths within the research base, and then it really helps you to separate and segregate some of the other empirical research, which might not hold as much robustness. But Sharon, could I get you to speak to the evolution, because we're actually going to move on slightly to MDTs and multidisciplinary team working, and I think I'll get Adam to speak to just the wealth of interacting with critical care colleagues from in hospital and different specialisms. But before we do, could I get you to speak to how you've leveraged current technology and adapted the course so there is almost this multimodal technological footprint?
I mean, when we first started, I would literally print modules and send them via post to students all over the world. Then we moved to CDs, and I'd spend hours burning the modules onto CDs. And in 2010, we took the leap into the world of e-learning education, and this was supported by technologists, but technologists with educational backgrounds. So it helped to allow us to have a vision of what we want our teaching and our learning to be, and that it's not just down to the books that you open the pages of, which are out of date. 10 years out of date by the time they're getting published, especially in healthcare. So it's allowed us the accessibility to online journals and the current research, and the ability not to take things at face value as well, so that you question what's being published. And I think the pandemic gave us the opportunity to kind of rethink and reset this, where there wasn't the time for the peer review, and we had to, what's working, where we don't quite understand the why now at this point, but we've been able to go back and say, okay, why did that happen? And I think the platform that we are now able to allow our students to engage with us. It gives them so much more than what we kind of, from that first printouts that we sent, 21 years ago. It gives us the opportunity to really have a global cohort, because when we first started off, we'd have residential weekends, but those came at cost to the students because they would need to fly over or travel, and then even though accommodation was part of the course fees, you still have to you still drink and eat outside of your meal times or whatever. So this e-learning platform allows us to really engage the interprofessional team. I'm hoping that they can understand what each other's roles are, and understand the importance of that to ensure the safety and the quality of care that we give to our patients, and that we can learn from each other, and that enriches their knowledge, which should benefit our patients.
So let's go there actually, and let's look at the interdisciplinary learning that you can leverage from just interacting with, and indeed reading discussion boards, reading other essays of the likes, which really put a different angle on even the same subjects actually to different applicability. Adam, what did you find from engaging with these different kind of multidisciplinary teams?
I mean, number one, it was access. I would have never been able to participate if it wasn't for this type of course design. This provided access to this entire group of people that had otherwise been underrepresented. Now, much to the points of both yourself and Sharon, it's turned conventional education on its head. When we're using references that are 10 years old, it allows us to become more current, to challenge the evidence and practice in real time with the issues at hand instead of the issues from potentially a generation ago. So it's really changed that. It's also given a new opportunity for people to present information and ideas and start conversations through unconventional means. Now the textbook, and arguably even the journal article, is not the method of truth anymore. We have podcasts, we have discussion forums, we have things that are now becoming credible sources of information in real time. And going back to my first point, it's increasing access to this. It's allowing us to have conversations at a much faster pace instead of going through the standard publishing stream. And then those ideas simply being lost through a degree of bureaucracy where you're like, I'm not going to bother publishing that, but let's post this online. I mean, I have had some fascinating conversations on Twitter, now X, with some colleagues all over the world that I probably never would have met or engaged with. And I appreciate that is not the method of truth, but it's another forum to have a conversation with and to share an idea or pose a question. So yeah, I think technology has completely broken down barriers and allowed for far greater collaboration with people that largely we never would have worked with. So.
And this is a main theme actually, and really interesting you mentioned this, because both the course in Cardiff, so the Masters in Critical Care that Sharon leads, and indeed as a Director of Critical Care, the course and indeed the service that you lead, Adam, are both MDT driven. So there's multidisciplinary teams in both high-performing teams, but there is this heterogeneous case mix within. Sharon is stewarding education for critical care paramedics, for consultants within emergency medicine, consultant GPs, and indeed within very niche specialisms. And indeed within British Columbia Emergency Health Service, you have a wealth of clinicians from emergency medicine, from disparate, urgent care, from GPs, from a wealth of other backgrounds, which now sit around the table to inform paramedic practice. And so, like you said, that's such an interesting analog from education to actual practice. Both benefit both in that asynchronous education world, but also in real life service provision.
I'm noticing that the different respects that are out there from in terms of the professions. There's it's not the hierarchy that there was, and that there's a respect for each other's profession because we understand it better, and we realise that we're not all going in with the same skills because that's not needed. we all have our own skills and knowledge that we bring, and understanding that, within the societies that I'm a member of and everything, you can see that it's changed, it's shifted, and that is so important, because who benefits from that? Our patients.
It's certainly promoting frontline leadership and meaningful stakeholder engagement, which has often been missing in healthcare conversations, where it was a dictatorial top-down approach to a management structure, which has now allowed those who are doing the job to feed up the solutions. And it provides them a venue to actually be heard. Not saying that we will enact every solution proposed, but it promotes a far greater discussion. So yeah, it's been revolutionary. It's completely changed the way we look at service delivery, at how we problem solve, and how we educate our members. So technology's been instrumental in all of this.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's pivot slightly and look at career opportunities, actually. And I'll come first to Sharon and then to Adam around. Sharon, you've got a really unique view, actually, leading the course in Cardiff, because I guess you get to see career trajectories post MSc certification into various different aspects of people's careers. Could you maybe speak to some of the career opportunities that a master's gives way to?
Oh yeah, I mean they can be so different for each profession that of our student cohort. If they, from a medical perspective, who follow a pathway through their training, it helps them stand out from the crowd. So when they're all applying for jobs, it's something different to the fact that they've all done, this training and that training, and it's all the same. But they all think deeper, and one of the things that came back to me in the very early days of the program was a consultant that I respected greatly, and turned around to me and he said, "I know the staff who've been on your program because they stand there and they challenge me, and they have evidence that they bring to the program." It does open doors, in terms of promotion within the UK nursing. You have to have a master's to progress and thing. But you're looking at alumnus are doing PhDs, they're doing research. I've got directors of critical care services, directors of education, lecturers in Russell Group universities. There's senior managers in both nursing, physiotherapy, and certainly within the pre-hospital world, where when paramedics first started to come and do the program, there wasn't a lot of research. And I've got people like Alan Batt who are leading research in the field, and they were all alumnus from us. It increases profiles and their career pathways and opportunities. So, and as Adam mentioned earlier, that publishing of their work gets people to know what the individual is achieving, and how that can then influence other practices as well. So that's really, I think, probably part of the most rewarding parts of my job.
And Adam, you're still on that journey, actually, within research, because you're doing your PhD now. Could you maybe speak to the MSc and how much of a fundamental stepping stone that was to where you are now?
Oh, it was instrumental. I still remember the first week of the course and cruising through all of the dissertations that had been put forth as examples. And I still remember coming across Tom Archer's, and I remember coming across Alan Batt's, and I remember reading these going, okay, this is the standard that I need to get to. And I remember downloading them and keeping them as references. And as I worked all the way through, it was like, that was the benchmark that I held myself to. And then as I pursued my program, as we've mentioned, like, there was so much applicability to my day-to-day job. My entire learning, I was able to take back and apply in real time to my profession, which it provided, an incredible amount of reward, but that also tangible benefit. I could see the change that I was making in real time, which was wild. And then to be asked to publish, my dissertation, that was a real sense of pride, because like I never would have done that on my own, but it was through the promotion of this group that enabled me and supported me to that. And from there, that just shot off like a rocket ship. And I mean, I never imagined, pursuing a PhD, but it was my experience at Cardiff that opened my eyes to further education and to research and to becoming a leader in this field. That was all born at my time doing my master's degree. And now, I mean, my primary supervisor is one of their most, celebrated graduates in Alan Batt. And now it's like I'm truly working with him and in his lab. And that's an incredible experience to see where all of these Cardiff graduates are going. I mean, we're at Monash University in Australia. He lives on the east coast of Canada. I live on the west coast of Canada. We have other secondary supervisors spread across the world that are all working on the same project together. And that's through the connections that we've made here. I mean, I just recently presented in a retrieval in 2024 where I met a whole slew of colleagues that I never would have had exposure to. And that was all the opportunities that I got. That was all born and supported and fostered through my education at Cardiff.
So let's look at the challenges facing critical care as we're starting to come into land. A few more themes before we finish. One would be really, the challenges that, the contemporaneous challenges that face critical care education and indeed practice at the moment. And indeed, maybe how the master's program is addressing some of these challenges. Sharon, could I get you to speak to some of the challenges you see and some of maybe the solutions?
Yeah, I think, the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, I think was probably one of the biggest challenges that we've faced in my lifetime. And I was humbled by the amount of students that still wanted to undertake a master's program during that pandemic, with all the clinical challenges that they faced and the personal challenges and the emotional challenges. And I think now we're seeing the knock-on effect of that, in that, the critical care staff have the highest rate of post-traumatic stress following the pandemic. We can see that we've lost lots of staff clinically, due to medical staff, nursing staff, and physiotherapists, due to the burnout of that. So I think that we have a young workforce within acute and critical care areas at the moment. I think that we have we have to nurture those. We have to understand that workforce, because we've done Gen X and Gen Y, and we're on Gen Z, and we now have to understand what it is that these healthcare professionals need to help them to deliver the care that we need as citizens and as educators going forward. I think we have global political challenges that impact on our ability to deliver and learn, because of the knock-on effects it has to our day-to-day lives. I think globally there is a cost of living crisis that we're still working our way through. So that makes programs such as masters harder to achieve. Funding opportunities have changed for doing this. So here at Cardiff, we're listening, and we're looking at what it is that we can do with that. So, and when I started the program, it was the MSc in critical care, and that was it. We now offer standalone modules. So that means you can take a look at aspects of the program at your own pace. So you don't, it's not paying for it up front. We will signpost where we can for educational grants. So in England, there's a way to master's programs. We also have charities such as the British Association of Critical Care Nurses, the Royal College of Nurses, that can offer some support and funding. Welsh Government offers some support and funding, but I think that what we're really concerned with is making sure that education is there. So you've got your 20 credit modules, you've got the modules that you can build up to the master's level, but we're also looking at where we're delivering CPD, so that, are not credit bearing, because patients are the priority here. So, and hopefully if people enjoy those and they're in a better position, they can look to doing the standalone credited modules or looking at the masters. I did have a student once who self-funded the certificate stage of her MSc, and the work that she did from our quality and safety program had such an impact on their clinical practice. They funded the second year, her organisation funded the second year of the program, and they paid her back for the first year. So I think it's about getting our organisations to understand the value of education, and the value not only in terms of the monetary value in terms of what it costs, but the whole thing that the patients actually benefit, the staff benefit if we ensure that we look after our staff, that we look after their well-being, that we can see that they are leading, which will it promotes their drive, and it will promote their retention to your clinical area. I think that's a good thing.
No, indeed, absolutely. And to Adam, to your thoughts, what do you see as some of the emergent challenges, or indeed well-established challenges, that face critical care at the moment?
I think, as Sharon alluded, it comes down to our workforce and our changes in our demographics and in our workforce. And instead of bemoaning it, it's understanding those changes, understanding what are the needs of the workforce, and now as a leadership team coming up with new solutions. The solutions of the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s may not be the answers moving forward. And we have to remain flexible so that we can still achieve our goals moving forward, while appreciating the political instability, the housing and cost of living crisis that we face, and also just the degree of balance that newer generations are demanding. And I don't say that in a negative way. They're not interested in the types of hours that were kept by some of the people in the past, and potentially rightfully so. So I think that's a huge challenge that we need to truly understand, appreciate, and problem solve moving forward. I think one of the other things that I heard was Cardiff has a long-standing history. I mean, 20 plus years. And of course, I'm biased because, well, all of us are either affiliated or graduates of the program. But I think we need to respect the startups that or we need to be aware of the startups there, that we're not cheapening the education process, and that there is truly value here in an organization and a school and a system that has this amount of experience, not only putting on this program, but in this realm. And that somebody who's just starting up, last year, first cohort, hey, we're trying this. They're not the same. And I think what we really need to do is we need to steer students towards the best fit for them professionally, as well as educationally. And instead of simply the quickest or the cheapest, we need to find that best fit. And there's a reason that Cardiff has stayed in the business for as long as they have and have the success that they've had. It's because of the quality of the program that they are producing. And I think that really needs to be highlighted. And I'll scream from the rooftops for anybody who will listen. I had a lot of opportunities when I was looking for schools, both in the UK and in Europe and in Australia. And there was a reason I chose this program. And it had to do with its long-standing nature, the quality of the education, and the fact that they had established themselves in this realm. So, yeah.
So as we come to land on the conversation, just a couple more questions. And one would be really granted everything Adam has said about actually it being a segue to opportunity, which it is, and it's also there's some sort of soft advantages and very robust hard advantages. One is the network it provides. Another is this something you mentioned actually, Sharon, which is, you know, this fundamental ability of critical thinking and to critically analyze a paper, and you can move that, you can extrapolate that, and use that anywhere in life, really, to your advantage. But Sharon, could I get you to speak to if someone was sort of on the cusp of thinking of doing a master's in critical care, what would your prospective advice be?
I think that, you need to plan before you start, plan your schedule, plan your study time. Postgraduate learning means you're going to be expected to research more than what you're taught in your classes and your modules. So understand that postgraduate level that you're going to. But it's important to maintain that work-life balance to help you to reduce your stress. And understanding your learning style and what makes you stress will help to identify healthy strategies to help you to cope as you're going on your journey. Prepare your finances. We don't want to spend the time about you worried about how you're going to pay for your fees and your living expenses while you're studying. Engage with any course events, open days, webinars, any pre-course reading, and delve into the subjects so that you're as prepared for your subjects as you can be, because that'll help you get a step ahead. Engage in the activities as well. I mean, the students that fail are the students that don't engage within the modules and don't engage in the study skill activities that we offer you beforehand. Talk to your tutors if you need extra help or have any personal issues, because life happens. When you start a master's, everything gets thrown at you, pandemics, financial problems. So, talk to your tutors. They're there to help, and there are opportunities and solutions for us to help you achieve what it is that you obviously want to achieve and set out to achieve. And I think most importantly, enjoy your learning. It will help you, and most importantly, help your patients.
Listen, that's powerful. That's absolutely powerful, Sharon, because like you said, it really does add to your not your clinical ability, but your critical thinking, but also, like you said, that it really evolves you as a person, because the time management and the preparation accordingly and everything falls out of that good time management, because even though it is asynchronous, you do need a real semblance of time management to make sure you're reaching deadlines, and it was certainly drew that out in me, actually. Adam, as we come into land, could I get you to speak to, you spoke to earlier, and I really agree with you in this point around multimodal learning. So understanding where the basis and foundation of learning comes from, but also gathering parts of it of information and learning from multimodal sources, podcasts, from long form narrative, from textbooks, from articles, from radio, from conversations with other multidisciplinary clinicians. Could I get you to speak to where you get your contemporary information from, and indeed stay in touch with the latest developments in critical care?
Yeah, so really interesting. It was my experiences within Cardiff that have really shaped how I achieve this information. It was the structure of the progressively increasing requirements of a literature review that really shaped how I not only obtain information, but review it, analyze it, and synthesize it. And now I apply many of those same principles to my daily work. I now know how to ask a question. I know how to frame a question. I know how to find the seminal articles that are, largely inform the base level. And then it's around using multimodal platforms to try and identify, well, what are the current trends? And what are the current questions that are being asked? And how is that being challenged? Because I think as Sharon beautifully, equated, we're encouraging our students to challenge the current evidence. Yeah, that seminal paper may have been put out 10 years ago, and we've largely based practice on it. But now in today's day and age, with what we've learned, what's still relevant? How is that relevant now to my realm in a transport environment versus, a set ICU in Wales? Could be very different. And now it's about trying to learn how it's relevant to us. So from there, and then, as I alluded, just the opportunity to collaborate with those abroad. Never did I think I would be speaking to Sydney HEMS or to the Welsh Air Ambulance or to take your pick of all of these other professionals, because the problems that I face in Canada are largely not unique. And there's probably a solution out there. And I now need to find how have others overcome this and now take potentially their solution and adapt it to my environment. So I think that's been really interesting. So what am I doing and how am I getting my current information? There's a few select podcasts that I do like to listen to. But I'm in this phase right now, especially within my PhD, around learning about high performance teams and leadership techniques within those teams. So for me, it's more like the Dan Dworkis kind of podcasts on high performance learning and such that I'm really gravitating towards. And I'm really enjoying a series that Sydney HEMS is doing where they're talking to clinicians about specific topics, and it's personalizing some of that, and it's super relevant to our environment and some of the work that I'm doing. So that's kind of some of the stuff there. Otherwise, I think Critical Care Reviews is probably one of the best sources of real-time information. I love that group and what they're putting out. And from there, they're opening my eyes to stuff that is relevant, but I probably wasn't on my radar just from capacity, and it's allowing them to triage a little bit of it. And sometimes those rabbit holes, when I have a couple of hours, you can cruise down this rabbit hole, and just the way things are laid out and the way people will piece together, hey, there's this article, but then there's these two counterpoints, and then there's some other reading, and it's laid out beautifully that allows the reader to really sort of make their own opinions and come to their own conclusions. So that's some of the stuff that I'm doing right now. And I'm sure it'll change in a month's time as Alan gives me my next new direction.
Listen, that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. What we'll do, you mentioned quite a lot of resources there. We'll put them in the show notes, actually, Adam, because there's some fantastic resources there. And if people want to know more, we'll list them in the show notes so people can look further. But it just leaves me to say thank you to you both. Actually, really appreciated both your perspectives and insights over the past hour, and then and also your perspectives on how the world of critical care is changing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity, Owen. It's great to see you again. Sharon, I owe you so much and your group. So thank you again for all of your ongoing support. And really appreciate it.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much, Erin, for your time.
You're listening to the Pre-Hospital Care podcast on the Medics Academy Network.